Hey everyone, I'm Tyler Metcalf, and I watch the film so you don't have to. On this video, we're taking a look at Duke freshman center Khaman Maluach and what he's bringing to the Phoenix Suns. Now, we know that the Suns desperately needed a point guard and they desperately needed a center. They needed help with their rim protection defense, and Khaman Maluach, at least on paper, provides that. But is there more? What else is there to his game? Let's take a look at the film, compare it to some of the numbers, see what's real, see if they actually struck gold, or is this just fool's gold for the Phoenix Suns? Welcome to Film School. Let's dive in. With Maluach, we have to start off on the defensive end because the upside is incredibly special. Now, it's important to remember that Maluach is still pretty raw and new to the game of basketball, and measuring in at just under 7'1" barefoot at the combine with a wingspan of 7 feet 6 3/4 inches, he is a massive human being. He has no right to be moving the way that he is throughout some of these possessions. And when it's right, it is really right. And from the start, could totally alter and transform how the Phoenix Suns are able to defend. Last year, they were 27th in the league in at rim defensive field goal percentage, allowing opponents to shoot 68.2% at the rim. You can't win games like that. This year, Maluach with Duke had a block rate of just 6.8, which is solid but not overwhelming for someone as big as him and such a dominant defense. But when he was on the court, opponents shot 48.6% at the rim, which ranked second in the country. When he was off the court, that number jumped to 54.9%, which ranked 88th. So still good, but it went from absolutely dominant to solidly above average. Maluach's movement skills allow him to recover in ways that guys his size typically can't. He's able to cover a ton of ground, and we're going to dive into some of these possessions now. This possession, I think, is one of the singular most impressive clips from any prospect in this draft. The way that he moves in space throughout this possession is really special. So from the start, they're just running the side pick and roll, going middle. Maluach shows, ball handler denies the screen, and he's immediately sliding his feet. He's almost 7'1" barefoot, and he's sitting down in a stance like this. Most guys don't do that. That allows him to play a little cat and mouse, dig at it. As the ball handler retreats, he sees that Sion James has just totally switched instead, so he comes out to guard him without hesitation. Smaller, quicker point guard. He should be feasting on Maluach in this situation. Instead, Maluach does a really good job communicating. Yet again, switches off the brush screen and closes out under control to the shooter. Look at the footwork here. Someone this big should not be that low in a defensive stance. Closing out, high hand, perfect fundamentals, on balance. It's stuff that you see from elite defensive wings, the way that he's moving in this possession. As the ball handler drives, now Maluach is in a help situation. He collapses down. Ball handler already doesn't want to deal with Sion James's size there. He pivots around just to see this mammoth of a human being in Khaman Maluach, and he's like, "Get me out of here. I don't want this ball anymore. Please, someone else take it." And yet again, as the kick out goes, flag closes out long to make the shooter move off his spot. Maluach follows up with a secondary closeout. High hand forces the rotation, and he knows that Cooper Flagg is now out of the play momentarily, so he has to collapse down as Con Knipple closes out long too. Now, Khaman Maluach is playing gap defense, shutting down this drive. High hands. As the pass is made, he immediately just pivots back, opens up his hips, and drops back down to the rim. Eat up that space. When in doubt, retreat to your safe space. And for Maluach, that's definitely in the paint. So now helps on the post up, forces the kick out. This is incredible scramble defense by Duke, and a lot of it is led because of the versatility and the movement skills of Maluach. So as this ball handler attacks the space in the mid-range, he goes to step, but that low, wide defensive stance, the solid footwork, allows him to then recover and make this potential layup almost impossible. He doesn't bite on a fake. He stays grounded, implements a little physicality, and forces a turnover. That's really special stuff Guys his size shouldn't move like that. And we see it again here. Empty corner pick and roll. He's playing at the level, and he doesn't panic. A lot of young bigs in these situations, when the ball handler gets to this point, they panic and they try to turn and chase and they try and recover rim side. They don't need to. They never need to. But by staying attached here, because he's so much bigger, he can just, his presence alone deters any sort of shot here. He forces him baseline into the help defense, stays grounded, forces the kick out. He might have been out of bounds there, but then again, stays engaged the entire time. Even though that kick out comes, he's staying engaged. Now he's picking up the driver, sliding his feet, high hands. He has his left hand is in there to disrupt any crossover, potentially poke the ball loose. Right hand is extended out, 7'6", almost 7'7" wingspan here, taking care of the ball handler, disrupting passing lane over here. High hand again. He's doing a really good job of using his size to eat up space. He doesn't have to be in his pocket defending him in the mid-range here because of how freaking big he is. Forces the kick out again. Now he just naturally goes out to cover the wing, collapses down for the offensive rebound. The way that he moves in space is incredibly special. Now, against NBA guys, we'll get into it later because we have some examples of him not moving so great. Against NBA guys, can he do that consistently? Early on, probably not. You probably want him more in a drop coverage, but the rim protection, the defensive versatility, some of the movement skills this early in his career are special. So here, pick and roll initially collapses down because ball handler denies the drive. Maluach's presence and Proctor's ability to recover there forces the kick out back into the DHO, and Maluach covers a ton of ground here. I love how active he is here because he's at the level. He collapses down to take away the drive, and a lot of bigs, especially freshman bigs at this point, would be like, all right, cool. I'm not going back out to the perimeter. I showed, I recovered, I'm good here. And instead, Maluach knows that Proctor just bid on the fake and they're recycling this DHO, and he has to get up to the level because Hunter Dickinson's a big dude too, really good screener, so Maluach can't give up a wide open three. So he steps up, flips his hips, high foot gets attacked, flips his hips perfectly, stays on balance, great job sliding his feet, not crossing them, not sacrificing his balance, staying low in that stance, and now he's in a cat and mouse game in drop coverage. Really great hands. Zeke Mayo exposes the ball here a little bit. Again, implementing that full 7'7" wingspan, pokes it loose, gets a steal. Now they're going the other way. As the low man, just simple help rotation stuff. Getting to shots that he has no right to, that most people can't. Ball handler does a good job of trying to put that high off the glass. Doesn't matter. Maluach's timing, size, swats it away. Same thing again. Great rotation, great timing. Doesn't go too early, doesn't come too late. Gets the ball at its apex before it hits the glass, before it's on its way down. Swats it away. Here we see him as the low man again. It's just a nightmare. When he's rotating over from that weak side, he is a menace to deal with. I love this really good drop coverage. So he's playing drop. He's starting out at the level to make sure that there isn't just an easy pull-up that Lamont Butler can walk into. And as he retreats, really good balance, and he's staying attached to Amari Williams. He's making sure he doesn't get caught in no man's land. He doesn't overcommit to give up that lob to Amari Williams. But with the high hands, he's able to stay attached and still deter Lamont Butler. As Lamont goes up for the floater, Maluach is in perfect position, times it to perfection, swats it away. And again, like this should be a layup because this is a freshman lapse where he's a little late reading what's happening here. He's anticipating Norchad Omier going to set this screen, and instead the ball swings and Maluach momentarily thinks, all right, cool, ball's going somewhere else. I'll just time to reset. But instead it's play set up to get Norchad Omier curling down and get Maluach caught up on this back screen. Maluach does a really good job of recovering here. The processing speed and the recognition of the play here isn't great, but this is a testament to his motor and his physical abilities to catch up and make sure that he's never really out of a play. This should be a layup or a dunk 10 times out of 10, but really good help rotation, holds up Omir just a little bit, and then Maluach comes through with the two-hand block, swats it against the glass. Really good stuff. So the way that Maluach is already moving, it needs to get a little more consistent. But man, the highlights and the foundation of where he's already at is insane. And when we think about what he'll look like in just a couple years as a team defender with those help rotations, ability to throw out different coverages in the pick and roll, a couple years of NBA coaching, get a little bit stronger in that lower body. There's some scary upside with his defense, especially from a team perspective. The rim protection is the number one thing with Maluach with a bullet point. But where the upside gets fun, and we kind of saw it in those clips, some of those clips with his team defense, but it's with his ability to switch and defend on ball in space on the perimeter. Is it always perfect? No, we'll get to those in a minute, but there is some bonkers upside with how Maluach can defend in space. He's not just your typical 7'2", 7'1", stoic, massive big man who has to exclusively play drop. When he gets switched out on the perimeter, there are signs of him really moving his feet well, flipping his hips, being light on his feet, and defending with high hands, and being really disruptive in shooting and passing lanes. If he continues to grow and as a player, hopefully not physically, my goodness, but as he continues to improve and refine some of his fundamentals and maintain that consistency and stretch these flashes into games and stretches, then it's like, oh, we're talking all defensive team type stuff with him. Because the rim protection's that good, the rim deterrence is that good, and now if he's pairing this type of footwork and that type of balance and discipline with the drop coverage, help, rim protection stuff, the Suns found a defensive cornerstone for the next 10 to 15 years. And on this one, really good job playing at the level, hard hedging, blitzing the ball handler. As the ball handler pivots back, Tyrese Proctor bails out, and Duke just switches this full on. Now here, that's a nasty step back that should take Maluach out of the play completely. The ball handler does a really good job here of attacking his momentum, but Maluach has really good footwork here, really good balance, stays low, plants that left foot, and does a great job of just opening up his hips and turning with the ball handler. Instead, he doesn't panic. He just opens up those hips, slides his feet, stays attached to the hip, because even though he's giving up this driving lane, it doesn't matter. As long as he's attached, as long as he's in the vicinity, he's big and long enough where he can really not only alter shots, but stay grounded, gets back rim side, and forces just a really brutal look. And then after being in a situation that should have left him totally exposed. So here we see him, again, playing at the level on the screen, switches onto a much smaller point guard, and again, that same thing. Point guard blows by him. Maluach kind of gets toasted here, but he knows that he is so much bigger and can eat up space in a hurry, so he doesn't panic because he knows he's still in position. He is letting this ball handler get to exactly where he wants him to get to, where he's comfortable allowing him to get to, because he knows that once he elevates, that 7'7" wingspan is going to eat up space in a hurry and really deter that shot. Ball handler says, screw it, don't want it. Nice kick out pass. Shooter fumbles it. But really good job by Maluach of staying attached and using his size and not panicking even when he gets beat off the dribble. So similar thing here. Elliot Cadeau does a really good job of snaking this. Maluach is playing kind of that pseudo drop. They're running a little Spain pick and roll here. Maluach fights through the back screen, stays attached, stays close, and that allows him. He knows that Konknippel's rotating over, getting good help defense, and the fact that Maluach is just constantly pursuing, staying in the play, and using his size to eat up that space without panicking, without fouling, staying disciplined, times it to perfection, pins it against the glass. Here he's just straight up guarding in isolation. Big men shouldn't move their feet like this. It's just that simple. So low stance, never crosses his feet, doesn't turn his hips to get parallel. He keeps the ball handler on one side so that high foot doesn't get exposed and his momentum can't really get manipulated a whole lot. Stays attached at the hip, doesn't jump at the fake. Cadeau makes a nice kick out, but really good job by Maluach of staying attached and just implementing sound fundamentals and allowing the ball handler to drive and attack the block like that. Maluach was able to stay in position, but also if he tries to cut off that drive, that's when the ball handler can hit him with a couple counter moves and force him to flip his hips multiple times, and that's where it kind of gets messy. Good high hand, opens up the hips, slides his feet, stays attached, absorbs the bump, forces the turnover. Really high level stuff. Again, I mean, what are we doing? His man denies the screen, had a little double drag going, probably should have taken it. Tries to attack Maluach's high foot. Maluach does a great job of opening up his hips once, slides, and then does a really good job of just opening them up yet again, pivoting back the other way really quick, just plants that left foot, spins that right hip open, allows him to stay attached, stay on balance, and elevate perfectly with the ball handler, and it's like a big brother swatting away his little brother's shot in the driveway. That's too easy. A little drop coverage, closes out, high hand, good footwork, stays attached, forces him wide, cuts off that drive. As Reynaud pivots back middle, Maluach just mirrors him, rides the hip, high hand, forces a running hook shot. He has a relatively clean line here, but you're going to live with that shot 99 times out of 100. Tough miss. Maluach's biggest selling point on defense right now, his go-to skill, is the rim protection, especially from a help standpoint. But as we've seen throughout these last couple minutes, there is some special movement pattern stuff with him. It has to get a little more consistent. We'll see that in just a couple seconds here, where when it gets rough, when it gets attacked, when it gets exposed, what that can look like. But when it's right, when he's locked in and moving like that, he is special. Now, unfortunately, Maluach isn't perfect on defense because, well, one, he's a freshman, and freshmen rarely are. Two, he's only been playing for a couple of years, so understandable. And three, he's a gigantic human being. So some of these defensive lapses that we'll see here with the footwork, the slow feet, heavy feet, slow off the floor, some of it is just physical limitations that got exposed at the college level at times, but will also get exposed by NBA level athletes and guards. The vast majority of his defense is really good. And in time, you would hope that some of these inconsistencies that we see get filtered out and the edges get a little more refined. Some of the drop coverage inconsistencies of getting caught in no man's land, those should probably be the quickest to get out of his system. Just given time and given reps and given experience and coaching and all that kind of stuff. But the more concerning ones are where he just gets totally blown by and has to, his teammates have to rotate from the weak side to cover for him. Those kinds of situations are probably going to be a little more prevalent against NBA creators with their speed and their athleticism. And then when they're kicking out to NBA level shooters in the corners, it could get a little more gross. So I would expect that we don't see Maluach defending on the perimeter and in space quite as much as we did at Duke. So here they're playing Houston, Final Four game, and Milos Uzan just cooks them. This is a nasty move by Uzan, and this is one of those examples where when Maluach can't keep his hips in one direction and can't keep the ball on one side of the floor, he can get exposed. So nice little crossover, and Maluach gets a little happy feet, starts to panic a little bit, and Uzan does a really good job of crossing back over, attacking that high foot, and forcing Maluach to open up his hips again and flip his hips. Now, when things were good, what we would see from in those previous clips, what we would see from him is he'd plant that left foot and then just open up his hips and drop that right foot, slide with the ball handler. He doesn't do that here. Instead, he plants that right foot and then tries to spin his left hip over to follow, and that's just too slow. It's not going to work. And again, in time, more flexibility training, it should not be an issue, but that's way too easy for Uzan. Similar thing here against Pitt, just dances on him a little bit, and this is where Maluach's heavy feet can come into play. I love the defensive stance. I love that he's shading him one direction, but he's just slow to react. And instead of sliding his feet, he loads up to try and recover. Help rotation doesn't come in time. He can't recover in time. Easy layup. Drop coverage, close out, flips his hips a couple times, and this is just a physical limitation type thing because I like a lot of this to start. High hand deters a shot, flips his hips, quick, still in that low defensive stance, active hands, forces a reset, but now the ball handler gets him just leaning one direction, and when you're that big, it's tough to rapidly change direction multiple times, and he can't quite recover. Really good rotation here to deny the layup. Maluach may have been in position here where if the layup does go up, maybe, he might still be close enough where he can at least affect it, but the rotation frees up the corner shooter, wide open. NBA guys, that's going in more often than not. Duke got punished on this possession too. This is just heavy feet. He's just being a little too slow here, high in his stance. He's trying to disrupt his man's vision, take away any passing lanes, and just a simple rip through. And Maluach looks like a statue here. Ball handler is a little slow to get off the ground here. That should be a little quicker finish, but and that's a testament to Maluach's size and length and recovering or desire to recover here, as he even gets a contest on the shot, ends up fouling him, but heavy feet, slow to react, and that's something we see a little too much. High foot gets attacked there right again, a little too easy. Inside hand scoop finish, can't quite get there. Playing at the level again, he tries to blitz him, and he's just not there in time. He's a little too slow, doesn't want to commit a foul, first possession of the game, and lets the ball handler turn the corner because his footwork just wasn't quite quick enough. His foot speed wasn't fast enough to shut off that angle completely. Now instead, he allows him to turn the corner, and now Duke has two defenders out of the play. This should be an easy skip pass right there, wide open corner shooter. Ball handler tries to get cute with it, and he even forces the strong side corner rotation. One of these corner shooters should be getting the ball. Duke gets a little lucky here that ball handler tries to get cute, look off Sion James, which doesn't really work, tries to force an entry pass. Cooper Flagg kicks it away. Again, slow feet, heavy feet, slow to react, sloppy closeout, closes out, high hand, but high in his stance and not ready to properly slide his feet, just gets torched right off the bat, leaves his teammates out to dry on the rotation. Here, weak side, exact same thing. Closes out too high in his stance. KJ Lewis does a really good job just attacking baseline, attacking against his momentum, against that high foot. From here, now solid rotation by Tyrese Proctor. Lewis can't quite finish, but that inability to consistently close out under control, it's impossible to do it every possession for guys that big. But when we think about physical limitations of guys this big trying to defend in space, it's a real issue. We see it every single year in the NBA, and depending on how Phoenix uses him defensively, it could be an issue. There's some really fun upsides or flashes of him doing it and thriving with it, but there are also a lot of examples of him getting totally torched. Like Ian Jackson here, quicker athlete, just Maluach isn't fast enough. Um, he's in a decent defensive stance. Would like his hips to try and be open up a little more so he can slide a little quicker and stay attached to Ian Jackson. Because he's a little too square here, Jackson's able to attack his foot, and Maluach just isn't fast enough. Jackson beats him to the rim. Maluach can't recover. This is a little bit of a rare, just like lack of defensive discipline. So Maluach playing drop coverage. Kasparas Yakashonis driving down, one of the craftier creators in this draft and in the country last year. Gets him with a little shot fake. Gets Maluach up out of the air, and just really nice play by Kasparas, but a little, just an example of how Maluach can get a little jumpy chasing blocks. That's more of a symptom of youth, I think, than anything, but something definitely to keep an eye on early. High pick and roll, playing drop coverage, and here he just gets caught in no man's land. During the good defensive clips, we saw him play that cat and mouse game really well, use his length to stay attached to both the ball handler and the roller. Here he's backpedaling, caught in no man's land, not committing to either. Hands are down, gives up the easy lob. That's too easy for someone his size with his defensive capabilities. That kind of stuff can't happen. And again, those last couple feel way more like a symptom of youth rather than a glaring flaw. Just stuff he's going to have to work on. And if the Suns try and let him switch a lot and try and have him guard at the level and defend in space a lot like they did with Duke, there'll be some awesome stretches. There'll be some really good stuff. But against NBA athletes who are so creative and so explosive, they're going to be able to manipulate his momentum way more than college guards were able to this year. I think I would anticipate he's probably way more just purely drop coverage. I would guess they try and keep him around the paint as much as possible early on as he continues to develop that hip flexibility, that hip mobility, and his foot speed. But some of the signs, some of the stretches this year were inconsistent and he struggled, but the vast majority of his defense is really, really exciting. To finish up, Maluach is also going to immediately help the Suns with just an interior vertical spacing presence on the offensive end of the floor too. Last year, they ranked 26th in the league in offensive rebounding rate. They were last in the league in a number of shots per game within 5 feet at just 18.8. The next closest was Boston at 23.5. That's a massive gap. They were purely a jump shooting team, and they just didn't really have any sort of rim pressure. Maluach will help fix that immediately. This year, I know there's some intrigue with the shot. I don't really buy it. Maybe it comes around. Maybe it doesn't. But a bona fide skill of his is his ability to pressure the rim. This year, he had an offensive rebounding rate of 16.5, which is very high. He ranked in the 88th percentile per synergy on cuts, 56th percentile in putbacks, 99th percentile as the pick and roll roll man, and 94th percentile in frequency and the 98th percentile in points per possession in shots at the rim. So he took 8 billion shots at the rim and finished all of them. Now, they're all pretty efficient looks. He doesn't, if you can throw a decent lob, odds are he's going to catch it because he's massive. He has really good hands on lobs. The hands rebounding defensively are a different question. But if you throw the ball up there, he's going to go get it. And the joy of that is that passers and playmakers can put that ball in a spot where literally no one else on the floor, except for maybe 3 guys in the league, can get to it. He's got solid vertical pop, really good hands on lobs, and isn't afraid to go and get it. He's purely a play finisher on offense. I wouldn't expect any sneaky playmaking stuff from him. Maybe it comes, who knows. But the expectation should be vertical spacer, rim runner, really good offensive rebounder. And maybe in time, there are some in the league who are really optimistic and think he's going to shoot it. The form looks solid. When we saw him at Hoop Summit a couple years ago, he was practicing them, top of the key type of stuff, corners. I don't think that's where the most of his value comes, but maybe 5 years down the road, who knows? Maybe he turns into a low volume, reliable pick and pop type of big, because if he can, and then he also adds that to his vertical spacing and his dominance at the rim as a lob finisher, as a cutter, then his scoring could get really fun. I wouldn't count on it, but hey, it's the draft. Let's be optimistic. So where does that leave us with Khaman Maluach and the Phoenix Suns? Personally, I think they struck gold. I've had my hesitations about Maluach and going to a bad team and potentially having to be the franchise cornerstone of that team, because I worry about the shot creation. I don't really buy the shot long term, and I think some of the defensive stuff has to get cleaned up and a little more consistent. But if you put him in positions to succeed and don't ask him to be a switch everything type of big, he's going to be a monster for the Phoenix Suns. I think they hit that pick out of the park and then continue to build on it. When we think about Maluach and the defensive end of the floor for the Suns, we know they have a plethora of shooting guards and Beal, Booker, Jalen Green, whatever. But now when we look at the defensive end, they have a lot of pieces to help insulate those guys on that end of the floor. Devin Booker has gotten better as a defender every single year, but now they have someone protecting the rim in Khaman Maluach, who's shown versatility and really impactful rim protection. They also have Ryan Dunn, who coming out of college was one of the most insane college defenders in the country. And they also added the size and athleticism and defensive capabilities of Rasheer Fleming. So when we look at that back line of Ryan Dunn, Rasheer Fleming, Khaman Maluach, are there going to be some offensive issues with that trio? Sure, whatever. On the defensive end, that is an insane amount of size, length, and athleticism. They are going to be a nightmare to score on. As long as they put Khaman Maluach in relatively simple positions to execute, simplify his level of responsibility, play to his strengths, make sure that you implement what he's good at, that's when some of those flashes can kind of start building on each other and turn into 2-game stretches, 5-game stretches, a month-long stretch of real dominance. There's some awesome upside with Khaman Maluach, and even the floor is incredibly safe as a rim-running, shot-blocking big. That archetype always sticks around in some form or fashion. It may not hit all NBA defense like his upside suggests it could, but he's going to be a really good player, likely for a really long time. Congrats, Suns fans. You should be very excited about what they did at the draft.